Okay.
Okay, so for anybody watching this podcast on YouTube, I'm going to put a small disclaimer out there. I usually wear a hat, like this.
Yes, he does.
And I like my hats, and that's the only reason I wear them, people. I'm just saying, I know a lot of you are speculating about why I might be wearing them.
Oh, I speculated.
There's a lot of speculation. But I did want to take a second after we watched the last video at the end of the segment last week. I got some feedback that there might have been too much excess forehead and shine coming on your left or our right side of the table.
Yep.
So I'm starting off without a hat. There's a lot of forehead over here.
Yeah, it's too much.
Maybe
we
we
have
need
to balance
it out next week.
Yeah,
Yes.
right, for sure. I agree.
So having said that, don't be alarmed. This is us, and this is loosely related. This is what we do every week. We just chat about things that come off the top of our heads, like shine or whatever else we're thinking. This
Yes.
week, I have my usual cohorts. This is Joe.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
And my other good friend, Joey, to the left.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back
Yeah.
for another episode of Loosely Related.
Episode 8.
And this week, just like every other week, we've upgraded, and we got our awesome guy back here, our technician, Brian.
Brian.
Our
yeah, let's
audio
give him a
technician,
hand.
Brian.
We finally got a technician.
Yeah.
We're moving up in the world, guys.
We
We're
want
just-
it. Yeah.
Each time we just add a little bit more,
Yeah.
you know?
Little taste.
Yeah.
So hopefully in the future, we'll have another camera so you can see Brian's beautiful face as well.
Yes.
Yeah, or we'll just at least have him hooked in audio-wise.
Correct.
At the very
know?
least, get him a microphone.
Yeah.
Right. So, as you already know, my name is Rob. I'll be your host this week. Today, we're going to start off with a little truth or tall tale. I'm going to recount a small story from my childhood. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. And you guys can ask questions if you'd like, and then you're going to guess whether or not this is a true story.
Okay.
All right.
So, as many of you may or may not know, I grew up in the Bronx, Bruckner Boulevard, East Tremont, Pelham Bay area when I was very small. And I went to a very high-end summer camp where it took place at PS14. In fact, that's where I also went to school. So I kind of just stayed at school throughout the year. Anyways, we would take awesome trips that would either include going down the road, walking around our school and coming back to our concrete playground, or sometimes we would go to Waterbury Park.
Yeah.
It's a small park in the area, common place. We didn't have public pools or anything, but we had sprinklers with garbage all around it, and it smelled like rotten eggs.
Of course.
Sounds like where you live now, kind of.
Yeah.
Correct. That's where we're
Yeah.
actually
Ooh,
filming
wow,
right now.
that's messed up. I
Oh,
hope
yeah.
Stephanie, if you hear
Don't even
that, I
say it.
apologize.
Shots
I'm
fired.
saying where
Better
Rob's
cut it
his
out.
own personal living area.
Okay, so in any case, one of these days we went down to the park, Waterbury Park, and they were doing some kind of craft activity or something. I think it had to do with like spinning the paint. It was this little pinwheel, and you spin the paint, and then it would make like a tie-dye shirt.
Sounds like that scene from Ghost when like there's a like when they're doing the clay and it's super
Right.
romantic and
Yeah.
This involved a lot less clay, but just the men would still be behind you
Yeah.
spinning
Sure.
the paint with you.
Yeah.
Rob and I do that from time to time.
That's what I was gonna
we
say.
do.
We take turns.
You obviously have this skill. I've always wondered
We've
where
made some really good clay stuff though doing it. I'll tell you what. We actually
Ashtrays.
could
Yeah.
probably quit the podcast and just
Cups.
do that stuff. Just make clay,
I'm
creations with that and just open our own, go on.
Yeah.
What's that website where you do your own creations and Etsy? We could put all their stuff up on an Etsy
Etsy.
site. Yeah,
Etsy.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
a
sure
lot of
you'd like to just, pretend like, oh, no, I do it for business. In reality, it's like, no, secretly, I just
Well,
love
you know,
having
you
my
wanna-
hands on Rob's hands with wet clay, and it's really nice, and I love that.
These are pretty delicate hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be able to enjoy what you do for a living.
Okay, so
Sure.
going back to what I was saying, we were at this park, and and you always had that little friend, right? I had this best friend, Vinny Ziola, taller kid, red hair, whatever.
Wait, what was
Still
his name?
hanging- Vinny Ziola.
That seems like a
Vinny-
fake name. I think we're going
Venezuela.
fake this.
All right, so we're hanging out, not doing what we're supposed to be doing, and I find this hat. This is probably like the mid to late '80s, and Miami Vice was the awesomest. Everybody wanted to watch it. My parents wouldn't let me. I think I was probably like 9 or 10 at the time.
I remember
But of course,
that.
we knew what the show was. Everybody thought they were Crockett in the tubs with their little sports coats. All
Yeah,
they're kind of like what you still wear.
I do. I have stuff still in my closet
It
from
looks
that
just like
day
that.
and age.
Actually, I
really.
meant to ask you if I can use that for Halloween, so I can be.
That's how the
Crockett.
members only
Yeah.
jackets became so famous from that show. I think it was from that show.
So we
Right.
we see this hat, and of course we're arguing over it. It's this dirty white hat that says Miami Vice with like some like hot neon blue or white, and we were like, I want the hat, and without even thinking of it, I just put it right on my head. We're running around the whole day. I'm sweating in this hat that I found on a public park bench.
Ew.
And then we're sharing it because we're like, all right, we'll take turns like it's custody. So I give it to him. He's wearing it. And we're walking around with this disgusting hat on. And I find these vials on the ground. They had like blue tops and red tops, yellow, I think. So we found those and we're like, I want them. Yeah, I want them. So we took a couple. We shoved it in our pocket. We don't think about it anymore. We march our way back to PS14 or the summer school or summer camp, whatever you want to call it. And we're inside, and one of the counselors, I think we used to call her Big Bird. She was a tall, blonde lady.
Yeah.
But anyway, everybody called her Big Bird. And she was like, oh, Rob, where'd you get that hat at? And I'm like, I found it on a park bench. And she was like, ew. And she like rips the friggin' hat off of me.
Yeah.
And she's like, lice. And I'm like, yeah, Miami Vice. And she's like, no, lice. And I'm like, Miami Vice, yes, okay. I was like, I want the hat. She's like, no, you can't have the friggin' hat. And she goes, what else did you find in the park? And I pull out these little vials out of my hand. They were crack vials.
Oh, my God.
Because they had the little red and yellow tops on them. And she's like,
Holy
give them to me.
Oh, my
and
God.
I'm pretty sure my parents never found out. We never talked about that.
Wow.
So,
It
Holy
seems like part of this story is actually describing my present relationship with you at the right now as we're speaking.
Yeah.
And it also kind of explains why you're losing hair.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some people
That
have
could
also
have something
speculated
to do-
that could have been.
It could be
Well,
directly
your
related
hair
back
loss,
to that moment.
Your hair loss started almost immediately after that. I think like the next
I
day
think so,
you started
yeah. Might
losing
have.
hair.
All
if
right,
I'm not
so
mistaken. So the
do you
idea
think?
was to go ahead and say, was that a true story? Was
it
that a false story?
Was it truth or a tall tale?
Truth or a tall tale?
And
Well,
you
here's
can
what
ask
I'm going to
questions
say.
if you want.
I'm
first.
going to go ahead and assume that it's sort of a trick question and that it's like almost half true because I definitely believe the part about Miami lice because who the hell who could possibly make that up that you have the hair, you find a hat on the street, Miami lice, Miami Vice.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I'm going to say that part of it is true, but the crack vial thing, even though I know it's the Bronx and I know that it's totally possible. You could find crack on the street in Bronx right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that part of it is fake and the other part of it is true.
All right.
So, Dad, what do you think?
I'm going to
Not true.
disagree. I believe that both aspects of that story are true, and I'll tell you why I believe that. The reason why I think so is because you grew up during a time where the crack epidemic was probably its most widespread, right? I think what was that? Probably 70s, late 70s.
I was born in 78, but this incident took
Okay,
place
so
in
80s.
88.
Yes.
80s.
Okay, I
88,
was gonna
that's
say-
that's right when it
I
started.
was going
right?
to say 80s, and in the 80s, the crack epidemic was like all over the place.
Well, it started
So,
in late 80s.
yeah, so I'm gonna say that this story is true on both accounts.
True. You think false?
Well, I like
Half true.
half true, half false.
All right, Brian, thumbs up or thumbs down? What do you think? Brian will be the jury here.
That'll be our final jury. Our final. He's gonna. All right. So
He's
Brian's
saying
giving a
up.
thumbs
He's
up.
Thumbs up.
So all the people, places, and things I've told you are 100% true.
Yeah.
Wow.
All
Really?
right,
All
so
right,
we
Brian,
did it. Good
Brian
job,
and Dad
Brian.
got it. I was wrong.
All
Good
right.
job, guys.
Head
I had a
lice and
feeling.
crack vials.
Was it the fact of the crack thing? You think that was
I didn't know there were
mean,
crack vials at the time. Let's
Right.
put
Yeah,
that
but
out there. But
sure,
they
of
were like
course.
talking about it. I was like, crack vials?
Yeah, but I mean,
hell's
like
crack?
the fact that time that in that decade was like the crack epidemic decade.
Yeah, well, it was even
So,
worse in
I'm
the
not
early
surprised by
'90s
that.
too.
Yeah.
The early '90s it really exploded, especially like in I remember like obviously like California, like a lot of these like areas where it started becoming it was cheaper because it was the whole cocaine thing. As a matter
Yeah,
of fact,
exactly.
we know about it because of Narcos. If you watch the show Narcos
Yes.
on Netflix, they talk about how the fact that cocaine was this huge thing, and then but it became harder and harder for the Colombian, especially cartels, to ship the cocaine and the Mexican cartels to ship the cocaine here. So what they
Right.
started to do was they started to essentially create synthetic cocaine, which was the crack cocaine.
Right.
And it especially, it was so cheap and so affordable, it blew up, especially in like these low income, unfortunately, urban areas. And it wrecked havoc.
Yeah, no, it did.
I mean,
the like you said, it had a lot to do with the cocaine trafficking that was going on in the late 70s, early 80s, and then it was expensive. You know, not everybody could afford
Cocaine was
cocaine,
expensive.
and then crack became a derivative of the cocaine, and then
exactly.
people were getting the crack, and then,
right.
and that was here in the east, in the northeast, and
Yeah.
the east coast probably, but then out in the and I'm pretty sure out in the west,
Well, it started out in like,
Midwest,
those
it
areas.
was methamphetamine that became almost like
Well,
their
I don't know.
variation
I
of
mean,
a
I
crack
know that-
epidemic.
I know
Maybe
that
was
like
later on. Maybe I could.
it might have been later on. I know for a fact that like it started like a lot of the crack cocaine started with like in Southern California, those areas like that. A lot of these like East LA, a lot of these more, just like these urban areas where poverty stricken, low income, and because it was so affordable. So when I first started college, I began my college career as a criminal justice major, and I know we took multiple classes on like basically it was police community relations, and they talked about how how law enforcement changed so dramatically in the early 90s because of like literally the explosion of violent crime can literally be traced to the explosion of crack cocaine. LA riots, the like explosion of crack cocaine in the early 90s.
Okay.
It's directly correlated with like a major spike, especially in violent crime.
Right.
In the entire U.S.
Yeah, because people were just killing it. Getting
I mean, to some degree, doesn't it seem similar today? You have opioid epidemic, and then people end up on heroin because it's cheaper, and then even that's cut because people want profits and they mix it with fentanyl.
Right. It's funny. I shouldn't say funny, but me, Brian, right here, and my brother were driving down to the Yankee game the other day, and we got just somehow on the topic of like opioids and how fentanyl is just creating this. It's taken an already out of control epidemic and then just exploding it beyond proportions that are like they almost can't rein it in. It's too affordable, it's too cheap, it's so easy to cut, and it's so crazy addictive. It's so strong that you can cut, typical heroin with just a small amount of fentanyl, and obviously I'm no expert, but from what I understand, it's super strong, way more potent, way more powerful than even like typical.
Yeah, it hits your system a lot. It hits your system a lot quicker. It's cheaper. It's easy to get. It was easy to get, and it was just really highly addictive.
Well, we're talking about fentanyl here.
Oh, fentanyl. My bad.
What else is there? He's a mile away.
Yeah, no, I was
like,
looking up.
He's actually
looking up
still
some
on it right
information.
now.
And not
he was
paying
actually talking about
attention to what you
Cheetos.
guys are-
Right. He was talking about Cheetos.
Well, they are. They're
Those
very,
are also
very
highly
addictive.
addictive.
They are.
Sure.
Yeah, and that was an epidemic too back in.
Well, yeah.
It still is.
Fortunately, not many people are breaking into homes to buy Cheetos, though.
Yeah.
So I think we got that under control.
As Rob says that he gets home, what happened? Someone broke into our house while you were doing the podcast and stole our Cheetos.
Correct. So, no, these are all serious topics, and I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but I think these type of difficult discussions need to be had, I think, amongst everybody, not just one group of individuals, because it's a community problem, it's a wellness problem for everybody. And I think one of the answers, and I know not everybody agrees with this, but I think treatment centers are extremely important for that reason. Plenty of good people. I think people have this concept that you have to be some kind of loser or some kind of terrible human being to get hooked on drugs, and that's just not the case.
There was definitely a stigma. I mean, I'm sure in certain areas there's still a stigma about drug use, but I think that I hope that it's died down a lot. I think that it's just I think because of things like the crack cocaine epidemic and how affordable it's gotten, it's become so easy for a lot of people to become like addicted to drugs, and I think we need to be able to have these treatment centers where there's like sort of we have to have more of an understanding. Obviously, addiction is a disease, and I think it's being more and more treated that way. Especially in recent years, I think definitely.
I definitely think like most companies, my company has policies. Every company has policies in place that they don't. Back in the day, they would, if you were a problem, they would immediately
just
dismiss you or get rid of you. But now there's laws in place that, if someone does, there's resources that you can use at your disposal, usually companies that will give you, resources to like try to get over your things, and they have a certain amount of opportunities to try to go to these places to, get off of their addictions. And you can get that at your places.
Rehabilitation.
So people are a lot more tolerant to that, or at least more helpful. And
I don't think it's true, but there's still a lot of pushback. I won't get all into it, but it wasn't that long ago that a company I know of was trying to open centers for recovery in an area not too far from here where it's needed, and they just went ballistic.
Hey Rob, I hate to interrupt you, but I don't want you to not, because you're talking about something. So I noticed that. I was like, Rob's talking about some serious shit right now. I want everybody to be able to hear what he's saying.
The local, let's just say the majority of local government was like just in hysterics, saying you're going to bring drug problems here, and the thing is, that's ridiculous. There's already drug problems there. Treatment centers don't typically bring a problem in there. They're there to help a problem that already exists. And people can make it about color or race. And go back to the 80s when you're talking about earlier, Joe, the crack epidemic. Okay. Those issues are still talked about now.
Well, that's unfortunate.
And it took a basketball star dying. And then, to bring up the issue of like how we treat different races doing,
Right, that's a whole different issue.
Right. So, so anyways, right. There's a lot to be said there, but I don't usually go in political or anything, but I feel very strongly that recovery centers are definitely a part of the treatment solution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
So Rob, do you feel
Education, whatever,
Yeah.
people being educated about it. I know that when my youngest son Matthew was growing up, the education was big. They had cops there. They had the
Dare? Well, they
the
had
Dare.
Dare police officer. I mean, even when I was younger, I don't know if Dare is still. I honestly I don't know if they still do like Dare classes.
You
or
know, I'm
anything
not
like
too
that,
sure, but I
uh,
remember when I was
I
also
haven't.
taking criminal justice. That's
Yeah.
what I also started at.
right.
And then we're talking about manipulating the manipulation of statistics and how easy it is. Like you
Yeah.
can say one thing on this side of the newspaper, and the other side, your graph doesn't even support it.
Sure.
Right.
And one of the things they actually showed was I had Dare when I was a kid. I remember Dave Winfield coming to my small school, actually, PS14,
Yeah.
and talking about drug use and abuse. And they said that even during the like a 10-year period, they studied Dare that drug use in middle school had actually slightly increased.
I think I saw a similar study. Yeah.
But they still poured money into it. And I'm not
Yeah,
saying
right.
good, bad, or indifferent about that. I'm just saying it's interesting,
Huh.
and there's no one easy solution. I think everyone can agree on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure,
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. I hope that the stigma is changing. I don't know. I would like to believe that it is, and I hope that it, just I don't know, that we become more understanding of it, because you can't fix a problem if you're refusing to even really understand what's causing the problem in the first place. I mean, it's a simplistic, it's an
Yeah.
idealistic approach, but
Right.
I don't know.
Well, since we're already kind of talking about things that we don't normally
Go into.
right? I was thinking this week maybe we'll talk about something that has been in the news lately. Again, normally we don't really touch on these topics, but because this person's name, and it probably goes without saying, Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay.
We're gonna just touch on that because it's like really interesting for a number of reasons beyond just another dirtbag and a sex scandal.
Right.
So for those who aren't familiar with Jeffrey Epstein, I'm just going to give you a quick background because, to be honest, I hadn't heard about him really before all of the most recent events of the last few months.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy's been on the radar to some degree since the 70s. He started as a math teacher in a prestigious Dalton school, a private school. Then he quickly went to his own to an investment bank team and then started his own management service. And even I think at the time they were saying in the 80s he was only looking to work with clients that had $1 billion in assets.
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah. So then in 2008, Epstein pleads guilty to solicitation of prostitution of a minor. Now this guy's at least a millionaire. There's a lot of discussion whether he was worth what he says he's worth. But in any case, back in 2008, so we're talking about a decade and change ago already, a guy worth this much pleaded guilty to a felony, which means I would think it's reasonable to assume they had something good on him. It wasn't just hearsay.
Yep.
So even with a felony, he was only given 18 months in jail, only served 13. And this is the crazy part. Of that 13 months, he was granted work release. So 6 of the 7 days that he was in this posh prison,
Right.
Where he was really free
It's
to
like
go about
not
the
even really a
cabin.
prison.
Right. It's like a day club or
Yeah.
a spa.
Yeah.
He was allowed to go to work 6 out of those 7 days. Like he was just a normal everyday guy, put his suit on, go to work, and then come back at nighttime like it was his home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Then he's also known for some other upsetting things. So, for instance, it said that he would fund scientific projects like eugenics, which is scary. It harkens
wow.
back to like Nazi science.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Right,
Really?
eugenics meaning like
no.
true genes.
Yeah.
And then he's been quoted from sources saying that he planned to participate in transhumanism. Transhumanism I hadn't heard of, but that's how we can improve the human population using genetic manipulation and technology. And
Okay.
his own
It's interesting.
so what's crazy about it, he said his own efforts would be for him to impregnate at least 20 women and set them up in an area so that he can start this line of progeny, which was
Really?
crazy.
Creepy
What
too.
the hell?
It's just strange, very
Really
strange.
creepy.
Yeah.
So then,
I would say so.
right, that's crazy. Eugenics and
It's really-
transhumanism.
What
That
the
stinks
hell?
of like the Third Reich kind of stuff.
It's weird
you
how
know?
much you think you might know about any story, and then there's details like that. That is just I never knew that. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
and this has been going on so a decade goes by, and I didn't even hear about him back then. I'm not going to say like I had heard about him, but
yeah, right.
then more recently, that was a decade since the issue in Florida where he pleaded guilty to the felony. So then July 6, 2019, he comes back from France, I believe, into New Jersey, and he is indicted on basically running a sex trafficking ring
Oh, right.
with numerous underage women. I mean, it wasn't like a few, like not like that's not bad enough, but it was dozens and dozens, and a lot of them were being paid and drugged up and everything to become part of his his
He was basically kidnapping.
yeah, ostensibly, and then he was using them because it's a lot easier for one woman to bring in another woman versus a man that you'd never seen.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he would use them as part of luring other underage women. He pleads not guilty. Fast forward to July 24th, he's found injured in his cell. There was debate about what exactly happened. Was he assaulted? He was in Gen Pop, but they at the time said it looked like a suicide attempt.
Okay.
He was put onto suicide watch, I think, for about a week or so. Approximately a week later, he gets off of suicide watch. And then, as most people know at this point, August 10th, early in the morning, around 6:30 or so, he's found dead of apparent suicide, having used sheets, I believe.
Under very suspicious
suspicious circumstances. And, people
Well,
do
they said
like
he
to
was
make...
found hanging by his bed sheet, right?
So,
Was that-
so he had bed sheets tied together. I would have pictured it like he's facing adjacent to the beds, and then he yanks his body forward with enough force to apparently break muscles in the neck area.
Right.
So this is the part that I find these potential conspiracies. So Epstein was known for having at least having said on the record that he had information on more famous people than anyone could imagine.
Yeah.
So obviously that is suspicious in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had known ties to President Trump. They had taken photos together. Many years ago, Trump had been quoted as saying he's a great stand-up guy. He also was well associated with Clinton. Bill Clinton admitted to having taken 3 or 4 plane rides with him, but denied that he knew of any of the scandals. Of course, those scandals were post that ride that they took together, the 4 that they know about, were post the incident in Florida. So he had already had pleaded guilty.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I don't know how you wouldn't know that.
Right.
But anyway,
Fair
so
enough.
I'd like to throw this to you guys, Joe. If you could tell us, have you been hearing about any of these specific conspiracies? Because it's been going mad.
Well, yeah. I mean, he slipped into obscurity. I remember when
obscurity.
Yeah, because back in what you said was like
Subsecurity, it's even below that.
Yeah, subsecurity.
Yeah, whatever. But
he slipped into dad's subconscious.
Yeah,
but it was
back in 2008. I remember when the
else.
guy was arrested. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
It was a big deal. I remember when it happened. I don't think people were really paying attention to it so much.
Yeah, I didn't.
It was just another thing, and it came
I had
out.
no clue.
It was only in the news for a short period of time, and I think there's probably good reason behind that. That they just did this, whatever they did. They didn't really try to want too much media hype surrounding it too much.
Who's they? They
just
meaning
whoever the background people who, if you believe in the conspiracy theories, I think what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of people out there that didn't want this guy talking about certain things that were going on, and you heard about the thing was and they even spoke about how he had this interactions with famous people. He was rich. He knew a lot of politicians. He knew world leaders. It's really a global reach that this guy had.
Princes, right?
Yeah, princes and people. The actual prince that was in Prince's, and there
Prince
was
Andrew.
pictures. There was pictures that were circulated later on where Prince Andrew was with him and a couple of women that he had, younger girls. So there was a lot of information this guy had, and I think people were afraid of it. They got him arrested, and they put him where they put him, in a nice, cozy place, and you didn't really hear much about it. So now it's coming back out. He ends up dead in a jail cell under really suspicious conditions. I mean, you had a guy who he had every reason to live. There was no reason for him to commit suicide, number one, in my opinion.
He had every. I don't know if I would agree. He had every reason to live.
Well,
you were saying
you're
a
talking
lot.
about
A lot of things out there.
You're talking
about
about
to unpack.
what I'm saying is you're talking
But
about.
okay, yeah, no, go ahead.
You're talking about a billionaire.
Yeah.
The guy has a lot of money. He had plenty of freedom. He still could do what he wanted to do under the circumstances that he had. So,
they did deny him bail. He said he was willing to do, I think, $100 million, and of course they argued. The prosecution argued that he was worth at least $500 million at the time that they said, in liquidity, I believe, and that he could he would be a flight risk.
All right, maybe he would, but where's a guy like that going to hide? But you're talking about a guy who has.
I don't know. Friggin' Roman Polanski did it for a long time after he fled the country. He couldn't get away. They
still made movies.
They still can't get the guy.
So maybe, but why? He wasn't like he was being put into the general population.
Doesn't
what
matter.
would be? What would be
originally
the
he
reason
had that
he would want to take his own life?
Well, I can tell you one thing right here. I know. I again, I don't know. I like to pretend that I know a lot about current events, and I know a lot about current events in the sense that, like, oh, I saw a headline that said, volcano erupts in Newburgh, New York, and for all I know, I would be like, oh, yeah, that's kind of cool. Can I see it from my window? I don't actually really do much. Unless I really I really have to find the story really fascinating in order to do like a lot of like really in-depth research. That's just me.
Right.
Not that this story is not fascinating. As a matter of fact, it's too. I know that you can't.
Intriguing?
No. As a matter of fact, I was going to say the exact opposite of that. I was going to say, as a matter of fact, it's too disturbing for me, I think, in certain ways.
Yeah,
I know you can't close your eyes to the dark, the dark patches of, society and all of that. But I think for me, when I hear about, these young girls and just how disgusting it was and how they were just taken and they were, mentally tortured at the very least, and I don't know, anything besides that, but it's hard for me to really do a lot of research into it and not get upset and angry and all that. So I don't know. I'm not trying to close my eyes to the, bad things that happen out there, but it's just, if I really can't even make it through one article, I'd rather just kind of, maybe just wait to see what I hear about it. I don't know. It's kind of a weird way to describe it. I'm not really sure how to describe it. But
I think it makes for a very interesting Netflix miniseries story.
Well, we'll see what happens there. But what I was going to say was that I did read one article that was explaining, because besides all the sex trafficking, in terms of just him taking his own life, that was what, of course, I guess maybe you could say is a little bit intriguing, just because it is very odd. And yeah, I mean, it's a little bit suspicious. It's weird to think that he was pulled off of Suicide Watch. There was a 3-hour period where there was no one watching him.
Right, exactly.
And that was a little bit odd.
And he was on half. He was supposed to be every 30 minutes.
Right.
Not
every
to
30
be played
minutes.
devil's advocate, I'm sorry to interject.
Yeah,
but
no, go ahead.
I mean, how long does it really take to kill yourself? Even on every half hour, you don't think he could have done it in that amount of time?
That's what I said too.
Even
but
if
then,
they were doing
right.
But then he was also supposed to have a cellmate as well. That was the weird. I think the weirdest
They-
part to me was that
they transferred his cellmate away.
that
which
was one
a
of
weird
the
thing.
weirder parts for me, was that his cellmate was taken away.
So even if you didn't watch him, but you had a cellmate in there, maybe the cellmate could have prevented or at least warned somebody that he was trying to take his own life.
Yeah,
there just seems to be a lot of very serious
what I will say
circumstances that
Yeah, but what I will say is that those things were obviously kind of intriguing. And I was reading one article. Now, what I will say, he did have a reason to, not, to be terrified or be afraid.
Yeah, I agree.
I know that maybe he wouldn't have, he kind of avoided jail the first time. He skirted a lot of his prison sentence. But I did read one article in New York Times that says, according to those who knew Jeffrey Epstein best, one of his biggest fears was living a life behind bars.
Yeah, well, to add on to that, Joe, exactly. So when I had the same kind of reaction when Joe said, I thought that was a bit it's polarizing to say he didn't really have reason, because imagine if you had the finer things life, or even forget the finer things life, just say you have an average, blue collar life.
Yeah, right.
I have family. I love my family, and I love my freedom. Mm-hmm. Imagine just not being able to be on house arrest, how confined that is. So imagine going from the extreme of being filthy rich and going to all these parties, and now you're in a 8x8 cell or whatever it is.
Yeah, but you just said before. I mean, maybe he was at this point. He was denied bail, so he wasn't at this time able to leave his cell at all. Was he able to? He wasn't.
No.
So how long was that going on for? Do you
he only went from apparently, I think it was July 6th that he was indicted. And he was put to jail that day, and August 10th he's dead.
Yeah.
So that's
not a long time. It's just
not
over
a
a
long
month.
time.
Yeah, but all right. So for example, part of that article also continues on. One of his friends said that and I guess I would assume it's a friend. They had said on the second floor of his Upper East Side mansion, Mr. Epstein had a mural painted that shows a photorealistic prison scene with barbed wire, corrections officers, and a guard station. Mr. Epstein himself is portrayed in the middle, and he told one of his friends earlier this year that he wanted the mural to remind him of what could await him if he was not careful. So I think this is a guy who really was afraid of going to prison. More. Not that, who the hell is not afraid of going to prison, obviously, but I think everyone kind of has that one. I don't know. Everyone, obviously, levels of fear from one person to the other is obviously going to vary pretty greatly, and it seems like this guy had a real, genuine fear.
Yeah, but that's still not cause for him to.
So, Joe, are you kind of basing
your
thoughts?
Opinion, though.
Yeah, but it is.
Okay, so let's delve into that for a second. So, are you are you saying that based on you think he could probably get away again?
Well, it's based on the fact that where was he at? Rikers at the time?
No, he was in Metropolitan Correction
MCC,
Center. It was
right.
a federal prison.
Right.
Rikers is not a federal prison.
And from what I heard, and I don't know what his conditions were, I don't know. I haven't read into it enough yet to find out. I just heard the basics and just made some, general conclusions based on what I know. And I may not have all the information, so maybe my
right. Let's assume we don't have all.
I know that
I'm not going to
clear.
say that I have all the information, but based on what I do know and what I've heard about the guards disappearing, the everything just pulling the guards off, pulling the cellmate out of there. And then him dying suddenly right after that under really ridiculous, suspicious circumstances. And when they initially said he was dead, the coroner the person in charge, the coroner who was in charge of checking him out, his initial report was to be determined.
Yeah, well, that's what
all right. Now,
I think that's standard procedure. Though.
Yeah, no, so that's to be determined. But so then when they finally came out,
play it safe.
When they finally came out with it, they said that his neck broke in such a way that is more
akin to
likely
assault or something?
Akin to somebody being strangled, because the bones that were broken would require a certain amount of force that just hanging wouldn't accomplish, or in very rare circumstances would accomplish. I'm not a doctor, I don't know, but that's what was brought out about it. Well, maybe secretly in a different life. Maybe I'll come back.
Okay, now
I
should have said I know we're kind of making this disclaimer, but I should have been upfront with this. We are clearly not investigative reporters.
No.
We are three literal guys from different generations, and we're just sharing our everyday average Joe opinion based on what little we even really know. I'm kind of under the thought that this speaks more to me, and I have no idea, just like we've been saying, this speaks more to me that I think that there's a general idea that we are way too overpopulated in the prisons. We are woefully understaffed. I think that's a known quantity, and that this may not be as abnormal as we think, but there's such a scrutiny on it, such a magnifying glass because of who this person is. Yeah. And I think they even acted in such a way. Do you know what I mean? Like the sheer fact of who he was and what was going on, and these other influences and people that he knew really played into the way they wanted to look above board. From what I heard, they even released photos of it, which is what I understand very unusual. They don't normally do that.
Okay.
But they wanted to impart that they were above board in every respect, and that this really is just what it looks like.
Yeah.
But so I guess that's why I threw it to you, because I just think it's so interesting, and like, does it play in his favor that he has all these people that he knows so much, quote unquote, dirt on? I think probably at one point it did, and I obviously don't know the guy, and I can't even fathom to think like him. I'm not a psychopath.
Right.
But I'd imagine it turned. Like, it used to be a what's the word I'm looking for? A leverage for him, but now I think he realizes it's no longer leverage, and that people want him dead, probably.
Yeah. I mean, he had probably dirt on a lot of people, and I think he was under threat. So there's a lot more to it that, and again, I'm not going to say I'm 100% believe what I heard. I do like to look into more sources and see if that information is just coming from someone who has a bias towards one person or another person, because obviously that goes on a lot, and I don't want to blame anything. So, but there's, based on some of the information, if they are true, it is a very suspicious.
Well, I mean, I think it's really important that we note, no matter what the the conspiracy theories say, that in terms of just what we do know, the facts that have actually been announced. The official autopsy report results were announced on Friday, and the medical examiner did show that the cause of death was suicide by hanging. And I'm not saying that that's going to quell everyone and anyone who wants to just continue believing conspiracy theories, but I still think it's important to note that this to note that this official results are out.
Right?
They did officially stated that it was suicide by hanging. So
I find, to me personally, and again, I'll throw this back to you, and if any audience member wants to chime in on this, please hit us up on Twitter or our website, wherever you can find us. So, but I'll say the scariest thing to me is this is a real, right? We know that this occurred.
Right.
Horrible atrocities were committed. And we don't even know who these people are. They're shrouded in mystery.
Yeah.
And there could be your neighbor. It's creepy. It's scary. It's so scary that this is like, we have to extrapolate the idea that he's obviously not the only one. Some of these people are so powerful, they just are above the law.
Yeah.
They're unstoppable to some degree, and that's scary to me.
Yeah.
What do you think, Joey?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a scary thing. I think that the rich and powerful. I would like to believe that a lot of them have good intentions. I mean, not everybody can be Bill Gates donating half of their, lifetime fortune to charity, but I would also still like to think that the vast majority of them are not running pedophile rings and any other kind of insane conspiracies like eugenics and, other just fucking terrible things.
Right.
And, so I don't know. I would hope that that's not going to happen, but
it'd be interesting to see how things develop over the next. I'm going to have to look into it some more, get some more
Sure.
information on, and I'll expound upon it maybe in the next episode a little bit if I find out some interesting stuff. But right now, as it looks to me, based on the information I've seen and heard, that it seems really suspicious. He has connections to too many important people, and he had a very nefarious lifestyle going on. And it seems like there were some people who went in some high places that were also involved in his nefarious goings on, and there may be people. I am not surprised.
Yeah, who knows how far this reaches? Sometimes this could just be this the scratch of the surface. Think back to the Sandusky incident and Penn State, and oh my gosh, that thing had legs. It just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
Yeah. But that's where I'll leave that segment. I'll throw it back to the audience. Please, let us know your thoughts on it. Again, this is just off the top of our head. It's it's just been out there so much.
It's been out there a lot.
Yeah,
in the meantime, let me just throw this out there. I know not to take over the hosting duties, but being that
where
was
you can find us
after
at?
These after this very heavy topic, should we take a quick break? You want to take a quick break?
Yeah,
let's take
a
short little break, and we'll be back, and we'll bring some more information to you guys, or some more fun.
We'll maybe move away from some of these more heavy topics.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Right.
I mean, again, I don't want
bit.
to take the hosting duties away from Rob over here.
That's fine.
So,
all right. So we'll take a brief break, and we'll be back to you right after this.
all right.
All right, so we're back, and we're going to switch gears a little bit to some more format that you're probably familiar with from our previous shows.
Some of the lighter stuff.
Yeah.
On the slate.
We're going to back out from our in-depth news coverage.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some
It's not a conspiracy.
We're going to talk about some movies and things, and then I'm actually going to do a little segment later. I hope that it'll provide some value for everybody. I know we're always trying to ball on a budget, so we're going to talk about how you might watch some free movies, get some free ebooks, magazines, all from the comfort of your home, and legally and free.
Yes.
So, so let's start it up with. I thought this segment was funny because I think it relates to most people. We all have that movie or book. In this case, we're going to be talking about movies, but that you hate to admit that you love them. For whatever reason, you can watch this movie over and over again, and nobody understands, and you don't want to tell them why.
Yeah.
So, Joe, why don't you start us off?
All right. So, let me just. I know why this topic kind of came up. So last week we were talking about Whitney Houston. We were talking about her.
Yeah, Bodyguard.
And I mentioned the movie The Bodyguard. And Rob, in the episode he goes, The Bodyguard? You like that movie? And I was like, I really do. So after the episode, Rob goes to me, what if we just next episode we did you really like that movie? We'll all say a movie that we're embarrassed. So I was like, all right. So obviously, if you watched last week's episode, The Bodyguard is one of mine. I really do love that movie. I don't know why. It's like the weirdest thing. It's always, it used to always be on AMC, I think.
Yeah.
Like channel, and every time it was on, it could have been on the previous day, same time, and I would watch it. I loved this sequence when Kevin Costner, so they're in the woods, and they the whole movie is Whitney Houston's being chased by a stalker that's trying to kill her, and they go up into the woods, up around the lake house. Yeah.
Is it Bobby Brown?
It was I think it was Bobby Brown.
I was with Bobby Brown at that time.
That was when Life Imitates Art.
Yeah, it was Bobby Brown's ghost. It's actually a ghost story.
Okay.
Most people don't know that. No, but so they go into a lake house thing, and to try to get her away, escape. But then I think also Kevin Costner, in his mind, is well, if they come at us here, we're we're secluded, so I can see them coming or whatever.
Right.
But the guy finds them, and there's this scene where the killer, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie before, the killer, the stalker, breaks into the house and kills, in the movie, Whitney Houston's sister.
Right.
But Kevin Costner wakes up, he just fell asleep, and he's he hears the glass and the guy's running, and he looks out the window and he sees a guy running. And there's this great scene where he's chasing the guy in the woods. And actually this really cool action sequence where it's he's in the woods, and then he's now he realizes he's chasing the guy, but he can't hear him anymore. And now he realizes the guy is now stalking him. And there's this great scene where he just kneels down in the woods, and he's in the snow, and he closes his eyes, and he's sitting there, and he's listening. And then he hears a tree branch, and he just turns and shoots. And he hits the guy, and then the guy runs away. And it's just, I don't know why, I love that scene. It's so stupid, it's so silly.
All right.
But I love that.
That's cool.
But that's that one. And the other one that I watched, but this is the big one. And it's probably my favorite movie that I hate to admit. Because first of all, it's my least favorite director on planet Earth. It's Michael Bay. And Brian, Brian, our audio technician, is also a film major, got his degree, went to Emerson College in Boston. And we always make him and I always joke, because I'm a movie buff myself. That's what I do. So him and I are always talking about direction. We always kind of make fun of Michael Bay, but I really love the movie Armageddon. I love Armageddon.
Okay.
And I am, but the reason why most people
watch that a lot.
Most people wouldn't care. The reason why I'm embarrassed to admit it is as a film buff, when you say you like a Michael Bay movie,
it's hard to
Michael Bay
justify.
It's
hard to justify.
That's all Transformers and all that.
Yeah, Michael Bay did Transformers, all that stuff, But it's just something about Armageddon. That scene at the end of Armageddon when Bruce Willis, they're fun. When Bruce Willis sacrifices himself for Ben Affleck and all that, in that last scene when he's like, Harry, I love you. I literally cry when I watch that. It's so silly, but I really do. I'm not even joking.
You really get
I love that movie. I really do.
Crazy.
The best part is then later on, after you watch the movie, your dad's probably like, it's not actually possible to get through the Earth's crust, so that couldn't happen.
Yeah, well,
it's on Wikipedia.
That's the only time I actually do major research on things, because I'll watch movies from Hollywood and they're always based on fact, but it's 10%. So I said, no, you can't believe that. That one's not really based on any fact. But,
right.
Are you sure?
Yeah, well, I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't. Maybe it is.
Well, now I don't like it anymore.
Possible. I never researched that movie.
That was the only reason why I liked
it. It was a fun soundtrack, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so that's my big one, and then obviously Bodyguard's the other one. But yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Joe, we universally dislike most of the movies that you love, so it should be an easy segment for you.
Yeah, this should be good. It'll be more fun.
Well, you're not movies I love, but movies I hate to admit that I love.
Yeah.
All right. Now, it's actually hard for me to try to figure out, so I sort of just rack my brain and try to come up with a few, because I usually love or hate a movie. There's not that many that I actually just hate to love. But there are a few I thought of, and the first one I'd have to say is Julia and Julia.
Oh, okay.
About cooking?
So that's about you hate that you love it kind of a thing,
I hate that I love it. That's what we're talking about.
Yes,
right?
yeah. Because it's not.
I hate to admit that I love it, or whatever you want to say.
Well,
it's about a girl, a woman. It's about a girl. I can't remember the actress name. Amy Adams. And Meryl Streep is in it. Meryl Streep plays Julia Childs. And of course, she does an amazing job as Julia Childs. Like every other thing that she does is amazing. And it switches back and forth between Julia Childs' life, in
the past,
trying to, be an up-and-comer as a woman in the cooking world, which is mostly male-dominated, as a chef and stuff. And this woman who was, I think it's like a modern day past kind of a thing, and it jumps back and forth. And this young girl Amy Adams wants to be a chef. She wants to learn how to cook. She's doing a blog, and she's doing over a period of time these cooking recipes that she has to do, and she's doing a blog about them, and she's trying to emulate, I guess, Julia Childs. It's a fun
the whole movie is about the fact that Amy Adams' character is working her way through Julia Child's cookbook.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
She's making all the recipes.
Yeah.
Right, and then it jumps back to Julia Child actually writing the cookbook.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now see,
there you go.
It's coming back to me now.
There you go. That's what
it's being explained to you.
Yeah. Now I wouldn't say that I watch it constantly, but it is one of those movies that when it is on, I'll watch it because it's fun to watch.
It is funny to picture you watching that, right?
Yeah. All right.
So do they have any of your recipes, like your famous Ilios or?
They could never, even if they did
those in there.
That movie, she would give up as a chef because
she could never attain
that.
Thank God.
That cookie recipe, she wouldn't be able to get through that recipe.
Yeah, exactly.
But and then I thought of a couple other ones. Actually, I'm not so sure this one sort of falls into the category because I think it's just an endearing movie. You've Got Mail.
Okay, no, I can see that. I can see that. It's not. Well, it's all these. Like none of these movies. I mean, besides maybe Bodyguard, but none of these movies are particularly bad movies. But it's just movies that you hate to admit that you love, right?
Yeah,
and that makes sense.
You don't want to lose your bro card.
Yeah, it's a super romantic comedy.
Yeah, and it's fun. I'll watch it every time it's on.
Sure.
Every time it's on TV and I'm flipping through channels it's on, I'll keep watching.
Yes.
It's just, no matter who it's a romantic comedy, but at the end, I don't care who you are, you're going to love the end of that movie. You just have to stay till the end.
That's
when they meet
pick.
each other, and his talk and his dialogue at the end, I think it's just a very heartwarming, sentiment at the end when they actually meet and fall in love, when they've already known one another all along, which is an interesting concept for a movie. And then one of my favorite movies, which I will watch every single time because I love it, is Pitch Perfect.
Oh,
dude,
wow. Those are three
too.
really good choices.
Yeah.
Those are three solid picks.
I actually like all of the Pitch Perfect movies. But
so I can watch them over
and the funny thing is, I know for a fact you hate to admit them because I've never heard you admit that you like any of those movies until right now, my whole life.
But I do like each and every one, and if out of those three, I would probably watch Well, I would watch any of them if they're on, actually, really. So they're all good movies. So
really good picks.
if you haven't seen those, check them out. They're all, Pitch Perfect's pretty popular. Probably most of you have seen that, but the other movie, Julie and Julie, is an interesting, endearing movie, and same with You've Got Mail. I'm sure most people have seen that too.
Yeah.
Did that win any awards?
I honestly don't know. I'm gonna have to look it up because I can't just.
I mean, it was pretty successful because they've remade that premise a million times, even with the same actor, with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. And, what was the other one they did?
Yeah, when Harry Met Sally. It was that. No, that's not really the same thing.
Before that.
Oh, you're talking about
those two actors. Joe and Volcano. That's both of them again.
Oh, what is it?
I'm pretty sure.
Sleepless in Seattle.
Sleepless in Seattle. It's like this.
I remembered something, guys. You should applaud me.
That was good. Yeah, I know. Well, we're gonna have a compilation eventually on the website
of all three of us in our things, but especially that.
Of all the times that Dad has forgotten things and all the times he's remembered things.
Yeah.
That was also Nora Ephron, huh? Anyway, You've Got Mail didn't win anything, but except the hearts of all Americans.
Yes.
And you know what? I shouldn't say Americans. That's very exclusionary.
It's global.
All Americans and everyone from Madagascar. That's just
Madagascarians. Madagascarians.
It was a very hard poll to take. They had trouble getting out and reaching out to them.
Do we call them Madagascarians?
Madagascarans.
Madagascarans. That's kind of close. You say Madagascarans, I say Madagascarians.
All right, that's fair enough. Wait, so Rob, did you have any yourself?
I just picked out one because it was in my head the last time, and I'll just let you know it's Fried Green Tomatoes. I freaking love that movie. I watched it over and over and over.
Isn't that Julia Roberts?
No. No. So this movie is interesting, and I was thinking of a way to summarize it that you would know why it's so embarrassing, but I'm just going to read just this little snippet of the plot.
Okay.
And you could probably just tell from that. Evelyn Couch is a timid, unhappy housewife in her 40s. She meets elderly Ninny Threadgood in an Anderson, Alabama nursing home, where Evelyn's husband, Ed, his Aunt Vesta, has dementia, and she's also staying there. Over several encounters with Evelyn, Ninny tells her the story of a now abandoned town of Whistle Stop and the people who live there. The film's subplot concerns Evelyn's dissatisfaction with her marriage, her life, her growing confidence, and developing the friendship with Ninny. And the reason I love this movie is because it's more than anything about friendship, and it has the simultaneous plot of the friendship going on between the two women, and the friendship that's developing in the flashbacks that
and menopause, which you can relate to.
I felt like I was having hot flashes.
Yeah.
Movie. But no, it's got some great actors and actresses in it. Kathy Bates.
Oh, really? Okay.
Jessica Tandy, Mary Stuart Masterson, Mary Louise Parker before she was saluting out for Weeds.
On Weeds.
Yeah, and it's an awesome, but it's so pathetic because I'm always yelling at my family, and that's great to say. I'm always yelling at my family.
I'm always yelling at my family.
Everybody stop listening.
I'm always being a jerk.
No, but I'm always complaining, like, why are you crying? My wife cries about everything. My wife, Stephanie, I love you, Steph. She's very emotional, and like, she reminds me how your mom gets into. Why would they do that? And we have to be like, it's a movie. Why, Joe? Why are they doing that? Joe, why would she act this way? And when I watch this movie,
it's a house being carried by balloons, and it's animated, so let's relax.
If you don't cry at the beginning of Up, you have no heart.
You might be a robot, an android. That's how we can discover the first androids, though. Like like in Blade Runner, they have that test. What is it called when the test for androids? I forget what it's called. I don't remember that now. But basically, it's going to be, we're just going to show them the first scene from Up.
And
And
if
if
they
you
don't-
don't cry, okay, well, you're an android. Blade Runner him right now. Where's Harrison Ford?
Right.
So I watched this movie with my wife, and to say this is a chick flick is a total understatement. It might be the chick flick. I mean, it's under there. It's up there with some of the like Mystic Pizza and I can't
That's
even
another
think
good
of
one,
it.
though.
Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Oh my god, they had the traveling pants.
The
in this
Sister
movie.
Wives,
They're
isn't that
actually
one?
wearing it. I like that movie too.
Thelma and Louise.
I'm watching this
Louise?
No,
movie
that's a good
with
movie.
Yeah, that's
my
a good
wife,
one.
and she's turning around, and I just will say it was all kinds of misty in that, and she was even like, "This is slow and sad."
Yeah.
And we watched something else, and I was like, "That's the good part."
It's
Yeah.
So anyway, if you haven't
Oh
seen
my
that movie,
God.
check it out. It has mystery involved. There's a murder that takes place, and I don't know. It's about a kind of a town coming together. Anyway,
Yeah.
watch that movie. It's good. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so moving on from that, let's talk about how you can get free movies, free ebooks, magazines, all from the comfort of your home.
Okay.
So this does in part depend on your local library.
Okay.
Hopefully you do have a library in your area.
Yeah. The
Uh,
library's still a thing? They still
It
exist?
is. They are out there.
Oh, no shit.
But the
They
cool
have it
thing is,
online.
the thing is, all you need is a library card and any kind of device. If you don't have a device now, I mean, these work on Android platforms, iOS, Mac, Windows. You can watch these on your phone, and most libraries have them now. Particularly like smaller libraries that can't contain a lot of books stock. They'll have these, but they have a couple apps. One is called Hoopla, one is called Overdrive, and the last one's RB Digital. And actually, there's a fourth one called Canopy. And some libraries have multiple of them, some only have one of them, but you can sign up, you just use your library card. I believe you don't even have to, if you already have the card, you don't even have to go to the actual library. You can just check it out on your phone and see if it's available.
Really?
Yeah, and it's really good. The weird thing about it is there's a waiting list sometimes, which I don't get. It's an electronical, it's an electric PDF file, so I don't know how there's a wait list on that, really. That's a little weird.
There's a waiting list for download. You have to download this.
Like I said, all you have to do is go on your device and check OneDrive, RB Digital, Canopy, and you'll be all set. It takes a few minutes, and it's awesome. And it's per card, so if you have a bunch of kids in your house, you got nothing to do, and you're balling on that budget, check it out. It's
Holy
awesome.
shit.
Yeah,
Sounds
awesome.
very interesting. I'll check that out.
All right.
it is pretty
I'm the
good.
That's
master of
pretty sweet.
getting stuff for free. At least I used to be.
It
Anyway.
used to be.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, stuff for free is stuff for me.
It's hard to
You know
do
what
it
I'm saying?
now, right?
Yeah,
Like,
no.
a little
It's hard
bit.
to do it legally.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
used to get remember the cable thing? You used to always every time Verizon would
Oh,
want to
yeah.
charge they'd want to every time they'd be like, oh, Verizon's getting too much money. So what you do is you call up and you say, hey Verizon, I'm threatening to go to Time Warner
That's
Cable.
how I learned
And then
about it.
Time Warner Cable calls up, oh, we're gonna give you this. Well, I'm not gonna take you. I'm gonna go to DirecTV.
Yeah. No, I used to do that a lot because I used to have. We had Time Warner Cable with the it was telephones. I had one time when they were separate. Now they offer all three packages.
Right.
But at the time it was just like Sprint, AT&T, Verizon. They all had their own telephones. You get it from everyone. And now we get things solicitations in the mail. I'd have AT&T, and I get one from Sprint saying, "Oh, switch to us. We give you $100." And I switched. I think, okay, I fine. They give you $100 within 30 days. You get the
Yeah.
check in the mail for $100, and then you get a solicitation from Verizon. Oh, switch
You're
over to us
making
for
money.
$50.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Switch
Right.
over to them. So they were actually paying me for a while to actually have phone service.
See
Yeah.
if I like their service.
Yeah.
I do remember when you guys
They
had a
used to do that with-
computer down in your basement a long time. I think you were
Yeah.
dial-up or something.
I
man.
Yeah.
was.
He was
that
talking
back
about
in
that
the
6
dial-up
months of free
days.
AOL, and he's like, Rob, watch this. And I'm just staring at this. It took like 3 hours, but he did get it for free. And they're like, and your service is a go.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome.
And by the
Yeah.
time I actually logged on, the 3-month trial period was over.
It was over, right?
Literally.
Because
Yeah.
that's the amount of time it took.
It took to actually
I'll never
log on.
forget that when AOL first came out. You remember that we used to do, let's say we used to have the AOL, and then I would be online. Instant Messenger came out, and I was in high school, and I would be online for hours, instant messaging all my friends. And every time someone would call or try to make a phone call, they'd pick up the phone, and it's a
Disconnected.
busy line, disconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would have to, Joey, come on, man, you've been on the phone, you've been on the computer for 3 hours chatting with your
Do
friends.
you guys remember?
So
remember
funny.
chat rooms? You'd be talking to.
No, I used to love the chat rooms.
I
I used to
never
go
did
to
the
chat rooms
chat.
all
More
the time.
creepy
Yeah.
things coming
yeah.
from Joe.
I used
Every
to love
other
the
day,
chat
man.
rooms.
Loosely related, I mean, I'm glad that we're loosely related.
Yes.
So that we don't have to be associated with your chat rooms.
No,
What's
it's
the
like-
freaking chat
I'd
rooms
always
were you
been
in?
on the chat rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went on a Jeffrey Epstein chat room.
Whoa! All right, all
Shots
right.
fired.
No, I didn't.
All right.
go on
All right,
that
let's back
chat
out. Let's get
room.
back to
I'll
things
be
we know
posted
about.
tomorrow.
We're clearly watching too
Yeah, there
many
we go.
movies nobody cares about.
Now you're going to end
know
up in a
about
jail
this.
cell somewhere, and they're
Oh
going to
my
be
God.
like, "Oh, this is suspicious circumstances."
Yeah.
Well, if you do get in that jail cell, remember to bring one of your devices with you and get those free movies.
Well,
from
anyway,
the library.
do you mind if I just mention a show I'm watching on Netflix?
No, yeah, tell us. What's up?
Right now, I don't know if you guys, if anyone out there actually watched Mindhunter, the first season.
Oh, yeah, that was
great.
awesome.
Yeah,
Season 2 is now out, and it's also captivating. So watched episode 1 yesterday, and it's amazing. I can't wait to get back.
Yeah.
After the podcast, I'm going to go right back and start watching it.
I know it's difficult to get you down here to watch a podcast because a certain somebody in your house was watching this.
Yeah.
As we were getting ready.
They might be right directly above us right now, possibly watching.
There were a lot of angry comments coming out from some of their relatives.
Yeah.
But all right, so finally, I wanted to leave you with a recommendation. We're going to talk about today's going to be called the Comedy Vault, but Movie Vault. Well, I'm open to ideas if you got them. But
Comedy Vault, right?
Comedy Vault today because it's going to be comedy genre. So the idea is, and Joe, I'd imagine you're familiar with this. You've watched a movie a long time ago, but you really haven't seen it, and for some reason you're like, that movie's friggin' amazing, and then you recommend it to someone, and you're thoroughly embarrassed that you recommended it because it does not hold up. It looks like crap, and then you feel bad that you even said to watch it.
All right.
So what you have to do here is has to be a movie that's at least 10 years old, and for today's game, it's going to be comedy, and you have to have not seen it, to the best of your knowledge in that 10 years since it's come out.
Okay.
But you think it's a great recommendation.
Okay.
That's
so
funny. In 10 years that I haven't seen it in 10 years?
You haven't
That's
seen
tough
it,
to pull
many
up.
years. We'll just say it was 10 years since you've seen it, but it has to be at least 10 years old.
A minimum of 10 years.
Right, and you couldn't have seen it yesterday because it has to be, does it hold up?
I actually just thought of one.
All right, so Brian, I got you.
So Brian threw one up here, and he says
Brian,
the
that's a
Master of
good one.
Disguise.
With
And I
David
believe
Carradine.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Turtle. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's actually a very good one.
that's
You
the
just-
old-
that's Brian's
all right,
pick.
that
That's gonna be Brian's
Master of
pick.
Disguise.
That's
Master of
Brian's pick.
Disguise.
That was a
right there,
very
too.
good one.
So if the other part is though, if you haven't seen any of these movies we're talking about, or even if you had, the idea is for you to go watch them, so then we could talk about did this hold up the following week.
Yeah.
So mine I'll put out there real quick is Outside Providence. I loved that movie when it came out. I saw it multiple times, but I have not seen it in years.
Yeah.
It stars. You think I'd have this ready? But it
Yeah,
stars
right.
Sean Hannity, I think is how you say his name. Samantha Levine, Jonathan Brandis, who is no longer with us.
Yeah.
Alec
Hey,
Baldwin was a supporting part of that, and basically it's about these kids who live, well, as you would guess, outside Providence.
Okay.
And they get in all kinds of trouble. I don't want to ruin anything for you, but they are drinking and smoking some Mary Jane, and they end up hitting a parked police car, and then he ends up being sent to this preppy school in Cornwall, Connecticut. And it's about the relationships that he forms there while trying to keep in touch with the friends he has at home. It is hysterical. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to watch it again soon now that it's up in my head, and I think you guys should all check it out. Let me know what you think.
All right, cool. That's pretty sweet. All right, so I do have one in mind. I'm not sure. So I think it's funny. Now, this movie is not a direct comedy, so I don't know. So Rob, you tell me if it doesn't fit the criteria. I'll pick a different one. So I have a different one in mind. But I think it's very funny. It's a Disney movie, but it came out in 2000. I loved this movie, and I have not seen it probably about 12 years easily. It's that movie, The Kid, with Bruce Willis.
No, that counts.
Yeah.
That's
so
comedy.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good one.
The Kid,
That's a good one.
Bruce Willis.
I haven't seen it in a long time, so I can actually put that on my list of movies I haven't
We
seen.
saw that, and it was so funny when it first came out.
I actually like this segment because it's actually bringing back memories of movies that I actually now want to go back and watch.
Well, we have to now. That's
Yeah.
Rob's giving us homework to do.
Well,
it's like having a substitute teacher who comes in and assigns an essay. It's great.
Yeah.
So the Master of Disguise for Brian, for
Right.
myself, Outside Providence.
Yeah.
Joey, you're with The Kid.
Disney's The Kid, where Bruce Willis stars as Russ Durst, a successful image consultant whose life is suddenly turned upside down when he magically meets himself as an 8-year-old boy.
I have actually 3 on right now that I equally.
All right,
You
so
gotta choose
are
one,
funny.
buddy. We're
name
not
all
watching
3, and we'll all vote, including
Okay,
Brian.
fine.
We'll vote
There
on
we
which
go.
one.
And I
we
could
wanna
probably
do.
think of more, but there's definitely 3 in
All
my
right,
head right now.
name-
And they're at least 10 years old, right?
Yes.
Okay.
One was in 1991. It's a Dudley Moore film called Arthur.
Arthur, yeah. I love Arthur.
okay, that's
back in the
interesting.
day.
And I haven't
original
seen that
one,
one
right?
in a long time.
They
The
remade
original
that.
second one was garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, Russell,
But the first one was amazing.
Okay.
Another Dudley Moore movie that he made in
He
1990.
only made like 3. Are these all Dudley?
1997. No, he made a bunch, believe it or not.
Okay.
Because he made Arthur 2. He made
Okay, well,
Unfaithfully Yours. He made this. He was in the Santa Claus movie.
See, even you're surprised.
Which one?
Oh, yeah, he plays the elf.
Oh, does he?
I think, yeah.
I don't remember in that. I have him on the
Which
list.
elf?
think it was the elf.
No, that's
Is that the original, like the 1985 Santa Claus with the stupid candy cane thing?
Oh, it might be. Yes,
I'm
it
thinking of
might.
one
It
more
says
tale.
Santa Claus,
Sorry.
not just Santa Claus.
Don't go
So,
back to that movie. You're good.
but the other one that I loved, and my wife and I loved, was Like Father, Like Son.
Oh, yeah, with,
that's good.
I
what's
love
his
that
name
movie.
from
That's a
Growing Pains,
hysterical
right?
movie. Yeah, the guy from
that's
Growing
good,
Pains.
man.
And my third, almost.
So that's like a Freaky Friday type film where
Yeah.
the two
Oh, there's
people
good ones like
switch.
that too. I could think of.
Right, but that's that type of movie, right? You
Yes,
switch
yes,
bodies.
it's a switch body,
Right.
but it's so funny the interaction between the two of them. And then the other one that I love, it's a Tom Hanks movie, and he's made a lot of funny movies. But
Okay.
the one that I loved is called The Money Pit.
Oh, okay, with Shelley Long. That's
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you pick the money pick because you just saw that like a year ago.
No, I don't
Okay,
think I
here we
did.
go.
Because we watched
His
it together.
memory is
Yeah.
bad, to be
What,
fair.
there
It's
was
so
you,
bad.
You, me, and Mom, you
And I
begged
put it
me
on
to sit
for
down
you?
and watch it with me. And
Yeah.
we watched it like a year ago.
What
And
did
it was funny. It was
This
funny.
guy's memory is so
It was
bad.
funny. I know. I know.
He probably watched 2 of these movies last
Yeah,
week.
it's like I can't remember. I don't know.
No, I can tell you. Maybe you're right about that one, but the other ones I forgot
Probably on his
entirely
TiVo
about.
right now. All right, so pick one between Arthur one or Like Father, Like Son.
Well, if I had to pick, so if we're gonna vote right now, I mean, I don't know if Brian knows. When like, all right,
Like Father, Like
Brian
Son.
votes for Like Father, Like Son.
I still
I like
think that.
I would,
Father, Like
I would
Son.
do that one.
Like
It's
Father, Like
Alright,
Son.
well
okay.
worth
That's
it.
a good one.
And if you haven't seen that one, it's really an enjoyable
that
movie.
I would love to know if that holds up.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
I know you haven't seen that in a long time.
I haven't,
because
yeah.
You're
I know all
always,
about it.
well, like you're always talking. That's one of those movies where Dad always like, you know, we should watch Like Father, Like Son, and we never actually.
We never actually watched
We're
it.
threatening to watch his old movie.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so with that, we got Master of Disguise again for Brian. We got Outside Providence for myself. The Kid with Bruce Willis from Joey, and Like Father, Like Son from Joe. So we're gonna check out those movies.
So what else
Do your
the
best.
assignment? We have to check
You
out
have to
all of
check it
everyone
out.
else's
So you do
movies?
the best you can.
Yeah.
You do the best you
We
can.
got more than
Listen,
enough.
We got a
time.
week. We can
got a
watch
week.
all
We
of
can
those
watch
movies.
4 movies.
I-
Watch one a day.
Yeah, but I already.
That's why we don't have any time to really learn about current events.
the only one that
exactly.
I think I've seen all of them,
We're busy watching movies.
and I think I'll enjoy watching all of them again
All right.
too. So, yeah.
All right, so before we wrap up today, did anybody have anything else we need to hit up on?
Well, I just wanted to give quick a shout out. I was going to do it earlier on, but I guess
Yeah.
I wanted to have some time to do it. I wanted to give a shout out to my good friend, one of my best friends, Kevin. He just graduated boot camp. He's now officially.
All right.
He was in the
Congratulations, Kevin.
Marine
Yeah,
boot
absolutely.
camp.
Marines,
He's now
okay.
a Marine officially. He was there for 12 weeks, 3-month boot camp, and he just got home. He literally got home on Thursday. They had their graduation ceremony, saw his great pictures and all that, and we just saw him on Saturday. His parents threw him a nice big graduation party. I hadn't seen him in forever. I couldn't even talk to him. You know, in boot camp you can't have your phone.
Right.
But I just want to say congrats, Kev. Thank you for.
Good job, Kev. Keep up the good
applying
work.
yourself
Thank
to
you,
this,
sir.
and yes, and yeah,
Hoo-ah!
I'm really proud of you.
Or
man.
how
Really-
what's the thing
That
they
was
say
like
for
Al
Marines?
Pacino.
Yeah,
that
there you
was.
go.
What's the thing?
He was
the
like
Marines
Al
say?
Pacino's like,
Hoorah! Hoorah!
Ooh, ooh.
Oh,
Hoorah!
He actually
I
the whole-
actually did the,
smells.
I actually did the Al Pacino thing.
Yeah.
You did.
That was another good movie.
Scent
by
of
the
a
way.
woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Congratulations. Hoo-ah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they all do. It's all oorah.
And I think if he,
Yeah, I think the army says Wingardium Leviosa.
Yes.
That's what the army says.
what do they call their army? There was actually an army, the DA.
And here, Harry Potter nerd again. Every
Yes.
time someone mentions the word Harry
Dumbledore's
Potter,
Army.
oh my
Dumbledore's
God,
Army.
He said it out loud.
Brian's backing him up. I think he's
Brian's
right on
out
something.
there. Dad
Yeah,
can't go.
Brian's
Someone
got
else
me.
is in
Brian's got me. I
deep.
got somebody who can help
He's
me
in deep.
recall my memory. My technician is there. He's the best. Okay, and we're gonna have more information on Brian maybe, and we're gonna have some guests, right? We're planning
Oh,
on having
yes,
some
I'm
guests.
glad
so-
you mentioned that. So we were all talking earlier, and we were talking about maybe interviewing a couple people who had either very interesting jobs, not famous people, but interesting jobs or stories that we'd like to listen to. We're hoping you'd like to listen to it.
Yeah.
I already got Zone keyed up, so we're hoping to listen to one of your friends, right?
Yes, yeah. I'm gonna try to have my my friend Kev. So we were of course ask him all about boot camp, and I gotta tell you his story. I could listen to him talk about his boot camp experience for 3 hours.
Yeah,
And
I have to say.
he's great. He was on a podcast. Joey had
I had a podcast,
and Kevin's a great great personality.
Yeah, he's funny.
Interesting
Outgoing.
guy, fun guy, and I'm looking forward to hearing.
Yeah,
I'd
that
like to get a
story.
behind the scenes about that. That sounds great.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I haven't nailed it down, but I'm pretty sure, so I'm not going to put his name out there, but I know a gentleman who worked for 20 years as a CEO, and he spent a lot of that time in the 80s and early 90s and Rikers, and I can listen to those stories all day.
That would be an
I can't
interesting
wait to listen
topic
to
too.
that.
I think
Yeah.
you know.
So
And we'll put it out there.
And then
We'll
you
announce
have,
the upcoming interviews that we're going to do
Yeah.
when the times are and the dates. And also down the line, we're probably going to have maybe a live episode where we'll go live and you can maybe interact with the show live. And upcoming contests, things like that.
Contest, got some merchandise, right? Got some merchandise possibly coming out soon, potentially.
Maybe a gift card or something. We might got to get you people involved somehow, get some more audience out there. So
that's right.
And we're gonna have Brian a microphone next episode.
Yes.
Too. Brian's gonna get in on that. We're gonna have Brian be able to get involved in this.
No, that'll be great.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
That's great.
So Joey, before we get out of here, let them know where they can find us.
All right, so you can find us at on Twitter at LR Podcast. That's POCA. STS. You can find us on Facebook at Loosely Related Podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcast, on Google Play Music, on Spotify, and most importantly, you can find us on YouTube at Loosely Related Podcast on our channel.
Okay.
You can subscribe if
and
you like.
also we're also now going to also be found on iHeartRadio.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Check us out there too. All right, so when you get a chance, check us out where you can. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for all podcast listeners out there. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Out there.
Thank you.